Outside of jewelry, what other materials are made from silver? Companies like Tesla, who anticipate future price increases, will need to begin stockpiling immediately. It's not limited to the US alone. We did add it to the list of strategic minerals, but it was just a red flag for everyone else. I'm ready. From the way nations are behaving, it seems clear that we are moving towards a monetary system featuring gold. I believe we are approaching the next bust very soon. A repeat of the October catastrophe seems likely to me. The gold-silver shows Mike and Alan are back for another round. Hey Alan, how's it going? Mike, I'm doing fine. Good day. Excellent. You've made a brief presentation and shown it to me, so I understand the basic structure. Thus, let us begin. Of course, I think so. Silver and gold then are setting new benchmarks. They're reaching new heights. I find it quite thrilling. This is where we begin. Latest updates, as shown in the bar chart, a 14-year high is achieved by the price of silver. Thus, it is at 4,196 up here, close to 42. This is so thrilling. It was probably the last video, you know. It reached its highest point in 13 years, 11 months and 10 days. Consequently, it has been more than 14 years. Almost no resistance remains, which is the most fascinating aspect of this. Also, the opposition that does exist is really feeble. Well, folks, the price might hit this level and then perform a pullback. So, I'll sell here and buy here. Only technical traders do this. Additionally, many of them will be incorrect, for the simple reason that those who purchased at the time have either already sold or are patiently waiting for prices that are significantly higher. Going forward, I expect very few people to do anything beyond break even and sell, especially when inflation is considered. Even money was elusive for them. That $48 pricing point is too low. Now I'm really pleased with myself for starting golds.com in an effort to shield the middle class from the currency's decline. My prediction has come true, and nearly all of our clients are making money. Very few individuals have purchased silver at prices higher than this. What we're seeing now is the highest price for gold ever. So, I hope that I've done people a good service. I genuinely feel like I have. I think it's fantastic to see this. Of course you have. I'm sure of it. You've been really helpful to me as well, and that's why I was hoping we might collaborate on this channel. You have an enormous number of individuals that are financially dependent on you and your knowledge. Okay then, my gratitude, Mike. Yours faithfully. I understand. There has been a lot of labor, but there has also been enjoyment. Thus, yes. Alright, sure. You brought up a recent video that a few of our viewers have questions about. Clay Taylor inquires about what are the ramifications of silver being placed on the strategic minerals list. The government will have no choice but to begin stockpiling, which brings us to our second buyer, this time a very large one. This is a really large purchaser. Still, this is going to be similar to how other people utilize silver. It's likely that companies like Tesla will need to begin stockpiling now in anticipation of future price increases. Thus, this is also quite comparable. In 1999 and 2000, when oil was at $10 per barrel, Southwest Airlines took out a large amount of oil futures, which helped them develop themselves into a significant airline. They had a significant leg up on the competition since they had locked in these pricing. Anyone whose products rely heavily on silver should hedge their bets against the possibility of triple-digit silver prices and obtain an advantage over their rivals immediately. Indeed, I understand now, in addition to its businesses and nations. Therefore, other nations are considering adding it to their own strategic mineral lists, simply because the US did so. Already, game theory is in action. The only thing left is to hurry and acquire that silver before its price skyrockets. Very much so. Therefore, the nations that purchase the most are those in question. The US isn't the only country involved. Even though we included it on the list of strategic minerals, everyone else just saw it as a red flag. Finally, the moment has come. Very much so. It would be more costly to make war if silver was more expensive, if nations were to buy up all the silver. peace and prosperity for all. Totally accurate, but the government's dilemma is that they'll simply increase taxes. Even if silver prices reach $1 million per ounce, they will still plunder the populace in two ways to satisfy their greed: the standard tax as well as the inflation tax. When I was writing my debut novel, I accomplished a lot, especially considering the printing press's focus on war. My research on the Weimar hyperinflation was a foot-high pile of volumes, and you and I both had helpers. Some of them slipped my mind. My reading comprehension is impaired. Weimar hyperinflation occurred during World War I, when your country was at war, and they read them aloud and underlined passages for me to examine. Every dime you make goes into savings because you're so worried. Therefore, there is no diluting effect on the money supply because none of it is in circulation, and the government may keep printing more and more of it. The depreciation of the currency won't become apparent until the conflict concludes, the fears subside, and a portion of that currency emerges from hiding. Instead of putting cash in the bank, people used to just tuck it under their mattress. Listen up, for once it pops out from beneath the mattress, hyperinflation is on the horizon. War will increase the cost of living, but people will start saving more, and the economy will slow down as a result. This allows the government to steal a lot of money from you without you even realizing it? Yeah, very much so. To me, it's more about the value of the metal than the price of silver. It is the very fact that governments are able to have some kind of credit instrument. Am I correct? They can finance their military efforts by taking out loans against the taxes their population will pay in the future. Furthermore, these nations will continue to wage war indefinitely until you remove the system that allows them an endless credit line. And that was the function of gold in the past. Back in the day, there was a 100% reserve ratio tied to gold. Then there were 100% backed gold notes. The Federal Reserve came along and lowered that to 40%. After Bretton Woods, the reserve ratio decreased to 8% without being stated. However, gold standards allowed this fraud to occur once more. By looking at the actions of different nations, I worry that we are moving towards a monetary system where gold plays a central role. I really hope this doesn't happen. Will humanity once again rely on the gold standard? Or will they finally admit that fiat currencies can't store value and mathematically can't, and instead utilize something real and stable? Thus, precisely. Speaking about non-storage fiat currencies, have you thought about the possibility that B's powers have perfected the art of artificial intelligence and stable coins to keep this bubble running forever? Somehow, I feel like we've stepped into the unpoppable bubble of almost everything. Did you think about this? No, it's completely out of the question. This time, everyone says, well, this is different because, and I agree with them. After all, the economy can only be so distorted for so long. I believe we are very near to the next bust, and our current actions mirror those of the Federal Reserve. It seems like another October crash is on the horizon. I am aware that the introduction of quantitative easing by Ben Bernanke altered the US monetary supply, and so triggered this crisis. The average worker who has savings, a checking account, and cash on hand loses out as a result of quantitative easing, which creates a lot of money that has to be channeled through the markets through the main dealers. Meanwhile, those whose wealth is determined by the size of their stock portfolios benefit. Everything originates from that point. Plus, the world's wealthiest individuals are receiving it as a secret transfer from the Federal Reserve. But you can't distort the economy forever without. In terms of absolute purchasing power, gold is currently surpassing everything else, but it would be impossible for it to continue rising at its current rate indefinitely, even though I still think it is fundamentally undervalued. An ounce of gold could purchase the entire planet if it continued doing this indefinitely. It is impossible for that to take place. It will be of no consequence if they implement digital currencies, lock us in this cage, and attempt to plunder us for all time. Yes, that is impossible. That can't be done. Very much so. Therefore, I wonder if the bubble can last forever. I picture it like bringing water to a boil in a saucepan. You could think, oh, I could just heat this forever, as the liquid becomes increasingly heated as you increase the heat, However, that is incorrect. It reaches a boiling point and undergoes a different state shift, doesn't it? When you know this happens with water and other liquids, you'll know you can heat anything to a point where something explosive happens eventually. Beyond that, it turns into steam, and it's hard to anticipate what will happen next. Yeah, when the free market triumphs over manipulation, as it always has and always will, a dramatic shift occurs, regardless of whether we're in a system that uses digital currency or not. What matters is that we are not locked up. What matters is that we are not exploited for their wealth. Everything is irrelevant because the free market will eventually crush it, even if it's the matrix. Very much so. Who should we ask next? The world has an excess of currency, according to Stephen Cahill. I bet you never imagined you'd witness the kind of crash you're describing. There will never be a crash, recession, or depression when there is an infinite supply of money. Every previous metric, ratio, and disparity is now meaningless in a stealth debasement inflation economy. So, guess what? We put in a lot of effort writing this chapter about the silver and gold rush of the 21st century. And it's a concept I came up with wealth cycles. I believe I coined the term for them in 2010. We collected data from all available sources, some of which date back to the 1800s, and analyzed it to determine what's going to happen. Yes, the traditional measurements still work if you employ currency ratios. Ratios can never stop being useful since they remove the currency from the equation. When you start to put a monetary value on things like barrels of oil, ounces of gold, bushels of wheat, tons of iron, pounds of copper, or shares of the DAO, instead of just looking at their monetary value, you begin to see what real worth is. Things should not be valued in terms of their monetary cost, but rather their intrinsic worth. Very much so. One rubber ruler is equal to $1. You can't use a rubber ruler to construct a home.